Well, now we've got the panel and my colleagues here at Sky, Chris Smith and Peter Gleeson are joining me. And what a great topic, guys, for us to leap into. I couldn't believe this, and I bet you guys couldn't this morning either. Former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd is denying he had any knowledge that $650,000 in donations were made by the notorious pedophile Jeffrey Epstein into his New York-based think tank. This is Rudd's International Peace Institute. Now, the jokes are there to be had in abundance, but let's get straight into it. Gleeso and, of course, Chris Smith, 2GB broadcaster and host. Chris, it's a lot of money to have no idea where on earth it came from.
Isn't it amazing? There he is running his Peace Institute, which is like a poor man's Secretary-General position for the United Nations, which is the spot that he really wants. So he runs his Peace Institute and gets all of this millions of dollars in donations. A very handsome donation from Epstein. He's the chairman and doesn't even follow where the money's coming in. Now, Peter Dutton went one step further today and said it is unbelievable that he didn't know a donation was coming from this particular individual. I'll believe Rudd for the time being. I'll believe Rudd for the time being until we have a little bit more evidence. But there is his problem. Why, as chairman of the Peace Institute, wasn't he following the source of donations? Because at the end of the day, who knows where the money could be coming from and who knows where the money's going? He doesn't.
Well, exactly. Well, Chris, let's just have a quick look, Gleeso, before we go to it, let's just have a look, hear from Peter Dutton on what he was saying earlier.
It's just not credible, him saying that he didn't know anything about this, he hasn't seen anything. It's $650,000. It's a massive donation, and Mr Epstein was a very significant character, and Mr Rudd needs to detail all of the information because people want confidence and faith in the work that his group is doing. But at the moment, Mr Rudd has, I think, got more questions than he's got answers.
So, Gleeso, 650 US, that's an awful lot of pink bats, isn't it? I mean, you could that's a lot of money for
it's about $1 million.
Far away.
About $1 million Australian, Rowan.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't... you talk about the pub test, it doesn't pass the Checkers nightclub test, does it? I mean, it's one of those... It's one of those stories that you look at and go, well, hang on, as Chris said, you're the chairman, mate. Look, this is the former Prime Minister of Australia. This is the guy that governed the country for a number of years. He is across everything. He's a micromanager. That was one of the reasons that he went through so many staff because, you know, he was up at 5 a.m. and into bed at 1 a.m. and that's how he operated. He would have known about this. It's $1 million Australian, and to suggest that he had no idea, I think, as I said, it's not just passing the pub test, it doesn't pass the Checkers nightclub test.
And Gleeso, Kevin's very quick to condemn this network, the evil Murdoch network and all this sort of stuff. He's very quick to point the finger at everybody else. But Gleeso, imagine if somebody else had a mysterious 650,000 drop in their lap. You'd never hear of the end of it, would you?
You would never hear the end of it. And, of course, I've noticed that the ABC and The Guardian haven't touched it today for obvious reasons. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, that change.org petition that he's got out there, you know, for a Royal Commission into the Murdoch press, I wonder how that's going right now because it was the Daily Telegraph that broke the story, as they should. Absolutely.
Now, speaking of the Murdoch press, opinion columnist with The Australian, Nikki Sava, has written an interesting piece today explaining that, in her opinion, opposition leader Anthony Albanese is getting under the skin of the Prime Minister. She's noted that the remarks and puns thrown at Morrison by Labor since he did that chicken coop photo earlier in the year where he was building a chicken shed for some reason or other. Chris, she writes that one day that the photo hammering in The Last Nail will become a metaphor for what's happening. Do you agree with her? Do you think ScoMo's feeling the heat from Albanese?
Oh, not at all. I think this is one of the almighty beat-ups of the last 4 weeks. Just a beat-up. Albo is in deep car right now. We've heard all the reports this afternoon. The unions are turning on him. Half his MPs are turning on him. He can't get his climate policy right, which is just what Bill Shorten couldn't get right at the last election. So he's heading down the same tunnel. And there he is, teasing the PM over a little bit of a publicity stunt and a photograph, and the PM's going to get upset. I will admit that he does have a soft underbelly sometimes, Scott Morrison, but seriously, right now, if Albanese wants to focus on all that small beer and think that he's making headway, well, the big ticket items are the items that Scott Morrison is adept at, and I think he should just stick to his big ticket items and leave Albo to play with sledging across the table. It means zip. It's a beat up.
Gleeso, a strange day today for the State of Origin and NRL. So there was, first of all, they said they weren't going to do the anthem at the State of Origin, and then suddenly a big backflip when I think people got on 2GB and other stations and said, nah, this ain't happening. We've seen the situation now that they're going, oh, yes, we will play the national anthem. What's the real story here, Gleeso?
The boneheaded decision of 2020. Never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
This is Australia. We go to the Origin, we stand there, and the national anthem is played and we stand. And I actually think we should pose the question here. If these people are fed income about Indigenous equity, social justice for our Indigenous Australians, they should donate their annual board salary to a fund that basically is set up to tackle the real issues that are affecting Indigenous Australians in this country, like domestic violence, like sexual assault, like the fact that their youth crime is out of control. They are the issues that are important to Australians. They are the issues that they should be tackling. And I've got to say, I mean, I'm the biggest fan of Peter V'landys. I am his #1 fan. What he's done with racing in this country, what he's done with rugby league in this country is extraordinary. But he must have gone to the toilet yesterday when they pushed this through, because this is, without question, the most stupid decision I've seen from a sporting administration ever, Rowan and Chris. Ever.
Chris, would you join in that? And what would happen if somebody said, oh, we're not going to do a welcome to country ceremony at this or that event? Would it be...
Oh, yeah, good,
yes.
Good luck with that.
Oh, they'd scream the joint down. They would scream the joint down. Look, you can sing the national anthem or you can not sing the national anthem. It's a democracy. Do what you wish. But how dare the NRL squirm away and try and say, we are going to ban the national anthem because it should only be played at grand finals and Australian events. I would have thought a New South Wales versus Queensland event in sporting terms was as Australian as you could possibly get. Why is it Australian to play, the national anthem when Penrith plays Melbourne and it's not when New South Wales plays Queensland? It was a weak and pitiful excuse for succumbing to the PC brigade and not being embarrassed by what's going on with Indigenous protesters. Those players can do as they please, but I can tell you something. They may have big status in their game, but their status is cut down when they do this in front of fans.
Absolutely. Now, Gleeso, with just 2 days to go until the Queensland election, Deb Frecklington's LNP has revealed its costings today, outlining a little over $5 billion in election promises. So they're still promising a budget surplus in the next 4 years. Is this possible?
Oh, it's probably not possible, Rowan, but of course, I thought it was very rich for the Premier to yesterday, during the Sky News debate, have a crack at the LNP about the fact that it hasn't released its costings. Here is a government that has the worst unemployment in the country. They're basically sending this state broke. They're $100 billion in debt. Business confidence the lowest in the country. They don't even mention the word debt in their budget. And by the way, they didn't even bring down a budget. So people are in the dark about the state of the finances. So here she is lecturing Deb Frecklington on, oh, you haven't funded your costings. Well, the costings came out today. What basically the LNP are going to do is, through natural attrition, they're going to cut back the bureaucracy, which is really important. The Palaszczuk government's put on 42,000 extra public servants in the last 3 years. You wonder why we've got a state going broke. And look, it's still line ball, Rowan. I can't pick it. My Labor mates, and I haven't got many, they say that Palaszczuk's home and hosed. But then there's, you know, the seats up north, and we've spoken about this, Chris and I, in the past on Peter's show. They are the ones that will ultimately determine this. Seats like Barron River, Thuringowa, Mundingburra, Keppel, they're the ones that are in the frame.
5 seconds, Chris. Can she win? I mean, will Palaszczuk win or can Frecklington win?
Oh, I think she played the cynical game, scared everyone you-know-what witless about the COVID-19 virus, and that was enough to make sure that all she had to do was stop the virus coming from those cockroaches in New South Wales, and she home and hosed. It was a terrible, cynical program, but it was so deliberate and awful.
But there we go, guys. We'll see you on Saturday. I still think the LNP could sneak under the wire. You never know. Your luck, I guess. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Speak
Rowan.
to you soon.
See you, Rowan. See you, Chris.